You brought a filthy street man into our executive lobby. Now kneel down, pack your rubbish, and leave this company before poverty starts spreading through the air conditioning.
Nobody moved. 42 employees stood watching, while the injured man beside the reception desk struggled to rise. His jacket was torn. Blood had dried across his palm. To everyone there, he was just another homeless man who had wandered into the wrong building. Easy's eyes burned, but she refused to bow her head. He needed water, Ma. He could have collapsed. And because of him, you are finished. Security seized Easy's bag. Amaka ordered her name removed from the payroll before sunset. Then the homeless man lifted his face. My daughter, he said quietly, what is your full name? Before this story ends, that question will destroy careers, expose stolen millions, and force an entire company to answer for how it treats powerless people. So do not leave halfway. Comment your location and local time below, subscribe, and watch what happened when they discovered whose building they had thrown him out of. Only 9 hours earlier, Ease had entered that same building through the staff entrance at 6:53 in the morning. The Lagos sky was still pale. The air carried the salty smell of the lagoon, mixed with diesel fumes from buses crawling through Victoria Island. Rain had fallen before dawn, and the pavement outside Kestrel Meridian Group reflected the glass tower like a broken mirror. Ease shook water from her small umbrella, signed the attendance register, and greeted Ibrahim Bello at the security desk. Good morning, Oga Ibrahim. Morning, Ease. You are early again. I am managing. Better to arrive early than explain Lagos traffic to Madam Amaka. Ibrahim gave a low laugh. That woman does not believe traffic exists. She thinks the road should open because she is coming. Ease smiled, but only for a moment. There were cameras above the desk. There were cameras in the lift. There were cameras even near the staff water dispenser. In Kestrel Meridian, people learned to laugh quietly. She crossed the lobby and switched on the reception computers. The lobby was wide enough to hold a small wedding reception. Cream-colored marble covered the floor. Tall green plants stood in gold pots. Behind the desk, the company's silver bird logo shone beneath the words, Kestrel Meridian Group. 2 men were fixing a giant banner beside the entrance. No human being is invisible. Below the sentence was a photograph of Amaka Coker, kneeling beside an elderly street vendor, her cobalt blue suit spotless, her smile bright enough for a billboard. The banner promoted the company's new Street Dignity initiative. The public launch would take place in 18 days at the Ocean Crest Convention Center. Bank executives, journalists, and charity leaders were expected to attend. Ease stared at the words for a second. Then she heard shouting outside. A fruit seller had placed her tray beneath the building's canopy to escape the rain. One of the junior guards was pushing her back toward the pavement. Madam, you cannot stay here. But the rain is still falling, my son. Move. This place is not for hawkers. Ease watched through the glass as the woman lifted her tray and stepped into the drizzle. The slogan above Easy's head suddenly felt heavier. No human being is invisible, yet some people were only visible when a camera was present. At 7:14, Halima George arrived from the staff car park carrying 2 paper cups. 1 tea for the woman who refuses to sleep, she said. Ease accepted it with both hands. God bless you. I was already seeing stars. Halima leaned against the reception desk. She wore a plum blouse and a grey skirt, and her face looked tired. You studied again last night? Until 1:30, Ease. This HR certificate will not run away, but my rent can run after me. My contract can also run away. Let me catch something before everything catches me. Halima lowered her voice. Have they told you anything about confirmation? Nothing clear. Madame Amaka said I should remain loyal and not be too visible. Halima squeezed her face. What does that one mean? It means I should smile, keep quiet, and never remind anybody that I have a brain. They both knew the truth. Ease had worked at Kestrel Meridian for 11 months. Her outsourcing contract would be reviewed in 3 weeks. If she was confirmed as permanent staff, her salary would rise from 187,500 naira to nearly 300,000. She would receive health insurance and paid leave. She could finally stop borrowing money whenever malaria or a broken phone arrived without warning. But confirmation was not based only on performance. It depended on whether senior people liked the way you lowered your eyes. At 8:05, Amaka Coker entered the lobby. People felt her before they saw her. Conversations reduced, chairs straightened. Even the cleaners moved their buckets closer to the wall. Amaka was 42, tall and elegant, with a cobalt blue trouser suit that made her look like a sharp blade. Silver earrings rested against her neck. Her shoes were dark red. She walked without rushing because everybody else was expected to rush for her. Ease stood. Good morning, Ma. Amaka placed her handbag on the desk without returning the greeting. The delegation from Atlantic Union Bank is arriving at 4. Nobody with dirty clothes should be allowed near the main entrance. Tell security. Yes, Ma, and remove that plastic cup. Ease looked at her tea. It is behind the monitor, Ma. Do I look blind? This is a corporate lobby, not your mother's roadside kiosk. Ease immediately carried the cup away. Amaka's eyes followed her. Your contract review is close, Ease. Yes, Ma. Then behave like somebody who wants a future. I understand. No, you do not. Poor people are always in a hurry to display unnecessary kindness. You see one beggar and suddenly you want to carry him on your head. This company is not a rescue shelter. The words seemed casual. They were not. Amaka never wasted an insult. She planted it where fear could grow. By 9:30, the lobby was full. Drivers came for delivery documents. Consultants waited for meetings. Couriers moved in and out with sealed packages. Ease answered calls, printed visitor badges, and guided people toward the correct lifts. She did the work of 3 people, because the second receptionist had resigned 2 weeks earlier, and management had not replaced her. At 10:47, a young contract cleaner asked Ease to sign a supply note. The girl's hand trembled. What happened? Ease asked. Madame Amaka said they will deduct 15,000 because one soap dispenser broke. Did you break it? No, Ma. It was already cracked. Do not sign anything that says you admitted it. The cleaner glanced toward the lifts. They said if I refuse, they will send me away. Ease wanted to say more, but Amaka's assistant appeared. The cleaner quickly left. That moment stayed with Ease. It was one of those small things people ignored, because nothing dramatic happened. No one screamed. No one fainted. Nobody called the police. Only 15,000 naira was removed from someone who could not afford to lose it. At lunchtime, Ease ate at her desk. Contract staff were not allowed to use the executive dining room, and the small staff canteen downstairs had only 6 chairs. She opened her flask and ate rice with stew while reviewing notes on disciplinary procedure. Her online course had taught her something Kestrel Meridian seemed determined to hide. Fairness was not a favor. A worker accused of wrongdoing should know the allegation. The worker should see the evidence. The worker should be allowed to respond before punishment was decided. Simple things. Yet in many offices, power behaved as if procedure were disrespect. At 2:18, Halima returned to the lobby with a payroll folder pressed against her chest. Ease, did you request any money from the emergency staff fund last month? Ease frowned. No. Why? Halima's fingers tightened around the folder. Nothing. I just saw your name somewhere. Where? Before Halima could answer, the lift opened. Amaka walked out with 2 managers. Halima stepped back. "I will tell you later," she whispered. Ease watched her go. Something was wrong, but the afternoon did not give her time to think. At 3:58, the Atlantic Union Bank delegation called to say they were 12 minutes away. Amaka gathered the front desk staff and security team. "This visit is important," she said. "The bank is considering a 4 billion naira logistics facility. I do not want confusion. I do not want street people. I do not want anybody whose appearance will make our guests start asking whether we have lost control of the premises." Her eyes stopped on Ease. "Especially you sense." "Yes, Ma." Outside, traffic moved slowly beneath a sky swollen with another rainstorm. 11 kilometers away, Dare sat in the back seat of a dark grey SUV, reading a printed report. At 54, Dare looked different from the photographs displayed on the company website. 2 years earlier, an accident during a site inspection had injured the left side of his face. Several surgeries had softened the scar, but his jawline had changed. He wore his beard fuller now. His hair carried more grey. He had also lost weight during recovery. Most employees hired within those 2 years had never seen him in person. They knew a younger face framed in annual reports. Dare folded the document and stared out of the window. "Take the service road," he told his driver. "I do not want Amaka to know I am coming until I enter the building." The driver glanced at him through the mirror. "Sir, should I not call the security office?" "No. Daniel has been warning me that the reports are too perfect. I want to see the office before they prepare it for me." He tapped the paper against his knee. The Street Dignity Initiative had spent 68,743,200 naira in 14 months. Yet an independent volunteer had reported that 2 listed shelters did not exist at the addresses in the invoices. Dare had not returned to Lagos to test anybody's heart. He had returned because money was missing. At 4:09, a delivery truck changed lanes without warning near Ozumba Mbadiwe Avenue. The driver of Dare's SUV swerved. A minibus clipped the rear side. Tires screamed. Metal struck metal. The SUV spun once and mounted the wet edge of the road before crashing into a concrete divider. For 3 seconds, Dare heard nothing. Then sound returned all at once. Horns. Shouting. Rain against broken glass. The driver groaning from the front seat. Dare's seatbelt held him, but his head had struck the side panel. Blood ran from his palm where glass had cut him. His shoulder burned. People gathered quickly. Some tried to help. Some raised phones. Some reached through the damaged door. An argument broke out when another vehicle blocked the lane. A traffic officer shouted for everyone to move back. The driver was pulled out first because his leg appeared trapped. Dare crawled through the opposite door. His phone was no longer in his jacket. His wallet had disappeared from the center compartment. One shoe had come off and was stuck beneath the bent seat. "Sir, sit down," a woman told him. "My driver, which hospital are they taking him to?" Nobody answered clearly. The ambulance siren grew louder. Rain thickened. A man pushed Dare aside while lifting the driver onto a stretcher. Dare tried to follow, but the ambulance doors closed before he reached them. He stood beside the road, wet, bleeding, and unsteady. His company headquarters was less than 1.5 kilometers away. He knew the route, so he walked. By 4:24, rain had soaked through his charcoal jacket. Mud marked his trousers. Blood had dried in dark lines across his hand. He stopped twice because the ground seemed to tilt beneath him. People glanced at him and looked away. One taxi driver slowed, examined his clothes, and drove on. At 4:31, Dare reached the glass doors of Kestrel Meridian Group. The security scanner beeped because of the metal buckle on his belt. Ibrahim stepped forward. "Stop there! Where are you going?" "I need to speak with the board secretary. Do you have an appointment?" "My name is Deribe." Ibrahim stared at him. The junior guard beside him gave a small laugh. Dare gripped the desk to steady himself. "Call Mrs. Daniels. Tell her code 947, Meridian House, founding file." Ibrahim's expression changed slightly, but not enough. "Oga, hope no problem? You cannot just enter here and be speaking code." "I have been in an accident. My phone and wallet are gone." "Call the board secretary." The bank delegation was visible outside through the glass. Their black vehicles were turning into the driveway. Amaka saw them. Then she saw Dare. Her face hardened. "What is this?" she demanded. Ibrahim straightened. "Ma, he says he wants the board secretary." Amaka looked Dare from head to foot. His wet jacket, his muddy trouser, his single shoe, the blood on his palm. Disgust moved across her face before a single question did. "Take him outside." Dare lifted his head. "Call Mrs. Daniels." Amaka stepped closer. "Do you think because you learned one woman's name, you can enter any building in Lagos? This is not a bus park. I said I need medical help and a telephone, and I said remove yourself before our guests arrive." Ease had been watching from behind the desk. She noticed the way Dare blinked slowly, the way his fingers missed the edge of the counter the first time he reached for it. The dried blood was not decoration. He was injured. "Ma." Said carefully, "Let us allow him to sit. I can call the clinic on Akin Adesola." Amaka turned her head. "Did I ask for your opinion?" "No, Ma. But he may have a head injury." The bank vehicles stopped outside. Amaka's voice dropped. "Security, move him now." Ibrahim reached for Dare's arm. Dare pulled back sharply and almost fell. Ease left the desk. She caught him by the elbow. "Easy, sir, please sit." "Ease." The shout cracked through the lobby. Ease guided Dare to a low chair beside reception. "Ibrahim, bring the first aid box," she said. Nobody moved, so she opened the cabinet herself. She poured bottled water into a cup and handed it to Dare. He drank slowly. "Thank you, my daughter." Amaka's eyes widened, as if Is had poured the water on her suit. "What do you think you are doing?" "Helping somebody who is bleeding, Ma." "You are disobeying a direct instruction in front of our guests." The bank executives entered. Their conversation stopped when they saw the scene. Ease knelt and cleaned the cut on Dare's hand with gauze. He winced, but did not pull away. "Do you know where your driver was taken?" she asked. "No. Can you remember any family number?" "My phone stores them. I need the board secretary." Amaka laughed once, cold and sharp. "Listen to him, board secretary. Tomorrow he will say he owns the central bank." A few employees smiled nervously. Dare looked at Amaka for a long moment. "What is your name?" he asked. She straightened. "You are not in a position to ask me questions." Ease took out her phone. "I will call the clinic." Amaka slapped the phone from her hand. It struck the desk and fell to the floor. The lobby went still. Even the air conditioning seemed too loud. "You will not use company time to entertain gutter people," Amaka said. Ease stared at her phone. A thin crack had spread across the screen. Then she looked up. "He could die. Then let him die where he belongs." Outside, Dare's eyes changed. The weakness remained. But something harder entered them. Ease saw it. Amaka did not. Ease picked up her phone and called the clinic anyway. "Good afternoon. Please, I need transport for an injured man at Kestrel Meridian, Victoria Island. Possible head trauma. Yes, I will pay the call-out fee." Amaka reached for the staff card hanging from Ease's neck. The plastic strap snapped. The food flask fell. Rice scattered across the marble. "You brought a filthy street man into our executive lobby," Amaka shouted. "Now, kneel down, pack your rubbish, and leave this company before poverty starts spreading through the air conditioning." 42 employees watched. Nobody spoke. Ease's chest rose and fell. He needed water, Ma. He could have collapsed. And because of him, you are finished. Amaka pointed at Ibrahim. Take her bag. Disable her access. Tell payroll to remove her name before sunset. Ibrahim hesitated. Ma, perhaps HR should. Are you questioning me too? No, Ma. He collected Easy's bag, but held it gently. Amaka faced Ease again. You have been standing behind one polished desk for 11 months, and you have started thinking you belong here. Look at your shoes. Look at your cheap blouse. You and that man are the same advertisement for suffering. Ease's eyes filled, but her voice remained steady. I will leave, but I will not say I was wrong to help him. Your opinion cannot feed you. Maybe not, but neither can shame. A breath passed through the crowd. Amaka's face tightened. Get out. Ease bent to gather her things. Her fingers shook as she pushed rice back into the flask. The sauce had stained the marble. Her notebook lay open in the mess, the page on fair disciplinary procedure soaked through. Dare tried to stand, his leg buckled. Ease reached for him, but Ibrahim moved between them. Please, sir, remain seated, Ibrahim said. My daughter, Dare called. Ease turned. What is your full name? Ease Johnson. Spell it. She did. Dare repeated the name once, carefully. Then he looked at Amaka. I will remember yours also. Amaka gave a dismissive smile. Carry your threats to the roadside. Ease walked toward the exit with her broken phone, stained flask and handbag pressed against her chest. The doors opened. Rain blew into the lobby. The giant banner beside her fluttered in the cold air. No human being is invisible. Ease stopped beneath it for half a second. Then she stepped outside. The glass doors closed behind her. Inside, the bank delegation avoided Amaka's eyes. Outside, Ease stood beneath the rain and realized that 11 months of early mornings had ended in less than 6 minutes. She had no job, no final salary, no permanent contract, and no idea that the bleeding man behind the glass owned 61% of Kestrel Meridian Group. The clinic vehicle arrived 7 minutes after Ease left. By then, Amaka had already moved the bank delegation toward the executive lift and ordered a cleaner to remove every trace of the rice from the floor. Make it shine, she said. I do not want to see one grain. Dare remained in the chair, one hand against his temple. A nurse checked his pupils, rapped his palm, and asked his name, Dareeb. She paused. The name meant something, not enough to overcome what her eyes were seeing, but enough to make her look twice. Do you have identification, sir? No. Any relative we can contact? Call this number. Dare recited 9 digits, stopped, corrected the 5th, then gave the final number. It was not a personal mobile line. It was an emergency access code attached to the company's founding trust file. The nurse wrote it down. Amaka stood near the lift, pretending not to listen. Dare continued. When they answer, say Meridian House, founding file. Code 947. Amaka's hand tightened around her handbag. For the first time, fear entered her eyes. She knew the code. Only 5 people were supposed to know it. The clinic vehicle carried Dare away at 4:49. At 4:52, Mrs. Daniels, the board secretary, received the emergency alert on a secure line. She called the number attached to the request. The nurse answered, Good afternoon, Ma. We have a patient here who says his name is Dare eBay. Mrs. Daniels stood so quickly that her chair rolled into the wall. Where is he? Kestrel Meridian lobby. We are taking him to St. Nicholas Medical Center. Is he conscious? Yes, Ma. Put him on the phone. Dare's voice came faintly through the speaker. Ruth. Mrs. Daniels closed her eyes. There were many things voice recognition software could copy. It could not copy the way Dare pronounced her name when he was exhausted. Sir, thank God, we have been calling. My driver was taken from the crash site. Find him. We will. And Ruth? Yes. Sir? A receptionist named Ease Johnson was dismissed for helping me. Preserve every record connected to her, every camera, every access log, every payroll entry. Mrs. Daniels did not ask why. I will do it now. At 4:56, she called Daniel Okafor. At 5:01, Daniel sent a legal hold notice to the company's external data provider. At 5:07, Amaka entered her office and locked the door. She tried Dare's private line 3 times. No answer. She called the hospital through a contact and was told that a senior patient had arrived under restricted privacy. That answer frightened her more than confirmation would have done. She opened her laptop and searched the internal executive archive for Dare's latest photograph. The image was 18 months old. His beard was shorter. The scar on his face was more visible, but the eyes were the same. Amaka sat back. "No," she whispered. Her office suddenly felt too quiet. She remembered the man asking her name. She remembered telling security to throw him out. She remembered Ease kneeling beside him while bank executives watched. Any one of those things could end her career. But her humiliation in the lobby was not the greatest danger. The greatest danger was the file open on the second screen. Street Dignity Initiative. 68,743,200 naira. Amaka had not taken all of it. That was how she justified herself. Some money had funded real food drives. Some had paid for blankets. Some had covered transport. Photographs existed. Receipts existed. People had benefited. But 3 suppliers also existed mostly on paper. Their invoices carried inflated figures. Their directors were cousins, former classmates, and one man who had once worked for Amaka's brother. The money moved through accounts, returned in smaller transfers, then disappeared into property payments and private consulting fees. She had told herself it was not theft. It was compensation. After all, she had built the initiative. She had attracted media. She had made Kestrel Meridian look generous. What was wrong if the person creating value also collected value? The first lie had sounded reasonable. The next one was easier. Now Dare had returned, and Ease Johnson had been standing too close to the emergency fund records. Amaka called the payroll office. Halima answered. "Good evening, Ma. Are you still in the building?" "Yes, Ma." "Good. I need you to prepare an urgent separation file for Ease Johnson." Halima looked at the clock. It was 5:13. "Ma, HR has closed." "Did I ask whether HR has closed?" "No, Ma. Record gross misconduct. Unauthorized access. Defiance of security protocol." Halima swallowed. "Should there not be a query first?" Amaka's voice became soft. "Halima, do you enjoy your job?" "Yes, Ma." "Then type what I said." The line went dead. Halima remained with the phone against her ear. On her screen was the emergency staff fund ledger she had opened earlier. Ease's name appeared beside a withdrawal of 127,500 naira. But Halima remembered when the entry had first appeared. It was not there that morning. At 10:14 that night, a new voucher was created under Easy's staff number. Amaka's executive login approved it 4 minutes later. The voucher claimed Ease had collected cash 2 weeks earlier for emergency transport support. Halima stared at the timestamp. Ease had never had approval access. She did not even know the password format used for the fund. Halima moved the cursor toward the print icon. Then she heard footsteps outside. She minimized the window. Amaka entered without knocking. "Have you prepared the file?" "I am working on it, Ma." "Add misappropriation of emergency funds." Halima's throat went dry. "Ma, which funds?" Amaka placed a paper on the desk. The document carried E's electronic signature. "This one." Halima examined it. The signature was real, but the form was not. She recognized it from a transport reimbursement Ease had signed in March. Somebody had copied the image and placed it on a fresh document. Ma. The system time. Do not become a forensic expert because you can operate payroll software. Amaka leaned closer. This company employs more than 2,000 people across Nigeria. One receptionist cannot hold all of us to ransom because she wants to play Mother Teresa for a madman. Halima lowered her eyes. Yes, Ma. Send the notice before midnight. Copy the outsourcing firm. Freeze her final salary until the money is recovered. Amaka walked out. Halima waited until the door closed. Then she reopened the ledger. Her hand shook as she took 3 photographs with her phone. Across Lagos, Ease sat inside a crowded Danfo bus with her handbag on her lap and rainwater drying on her blouse. The conductor shouted for passengers to move closer. Madam, shift. Your bag is not paying transport. Ease pressed herself against the window. Her cracked phone showed 4% battery. She had tried to call Halima, but the network failed. She had also called the outsourcing firm. Nobody answered. Her reflection in the glass looked unfamiliar. She saw the sauce stain near her waist. The place where her staff card had hung was bare. Her eyes were swollen, though she had not allowed herself to cry inside the building. Now the tears came quietly. Not because she regretted helping the injured man, because rent did not respect principles, because school fees did not accept dignity as payment, because the woman who had humiliated her would sleep in a large house, while Ease would spend the night calculating how long one bag of rice could last. The bus crawled through traffic. At Falomo, 2 passengers began arguing over change. At Obalende, the rain started again. By the time Ease reached her small room in Surulere, it was past 8. She changed clothes, washed the sauce from her blouse and spread her wet notebook beneath the fan. The page on disciplinary fairness had blurred. She laughed once. It was not a happy sound. Her phone came alive at 11:47 with an email notification. Note of determination for gross misconduct. Ease opened it. The first allegation accused her of admitting an unauthorized person into a protected area. The second accused her of refusing management instructions. The third made her sit upright. Misappropriation of 127,500 naira from the Emergency Staff Support Fund. What? She read it again. Her name. Her staff number. Her supposed signature. Her salary would be withheld. The outsourcing company reserved the right to recover the alleged amount. The accusation could be disclosed in future employment references. Ease's body became cold. Being fired was one thing. Being branded a thief was another. She called Halima. No answer. She called again. The call ended. A minute later, a message arrived. I cannot talk now. Do not sign anything. Save every email. Ease stared at the words. Then another message appeared. Ask them to preserve the lobby camera from 4:20 to 5. Ask in writing tonight. Ease's fear sharpened into attention. She opened her email and began typing. Her hands were still trembling, but her sentences were clear. She denied taking any money. She requested the voucher, ledger, approval record, and complete allegation file. She asked for the exact policy she had violated. She requested preservation of CCTV footage, access logs, and all payroll records connected to her staff number. She requested an opportunity to respond before any final conclusion. At 12:21, she sent the email to HR, payroll, the outsourcing company, and Amaka. Then she took screenshots. Then she forwarded everything to a second email address. Ease had no lawyer. She had no powerful relative. But she had learned one useful lesson from her course. When power wants to rewrite what happened, memory is not enough. You need records. The next morning, September 9, Ease arrived at this outsourcing firm's office in Yaba at 9:17. The reception area had peeling paint and 3 plastic chairs. A wall calendar still showed August. A supervisor placed a 6-page document in front of her. "If you sign, we can release half of your outstanding salary within 7 working days," he said. Ease read the first page. The document said she had resigned voluntarily. The second page said she accepted responsibility for the missing funds. The third said she would not speak publicly about Kestrel Meridian. The fourth authorized deductions from any future payment. She pushed it back. "I cannot sign this." The supervisor sighed. "My sister, do not make life difficult. Kestrel's Meridian is a big client. They have already decided. Then why do they need my signature?" He shifted in his chair. "It is procedure." "No, procedure is asking me what happened before deciding I am guilty." "Ease, you are a contract worker." "Does a contract worker not have a name?" "That is not what I said. Does a contract worker not have the right to deny theft?" The supervisor lowered his voice. "You cannot fight that company. I am not fighting the company. I am refusing to confess to something I did not do." He tapped the document. "If you leave without signing, your payment may be delayed indefinitely." Ease stood. "My hunger is not evidence against me." She picked up her bag and walked out. Her legs felt weak by the time she reached the gate. She had only 38,000 naira left in her account. Her rent was due in 17 days. Her course installment was due in 9. Still, she did not turn back. At St. Nicholas Medical Center, Dare woke to a headache and the smell of antiseptic. His left shoulder was bruised. His palm required 7 stitches. The scan showed a mild concussion, but no internal bleeding. His driver had been located at another hospital and was stable after surgery on a fractured leg. Mrs. Daniels stood near the window. Daniel Okafor sat with a file across his knees. Daniel was 47, calm in the way only people who did not fear silence could be calm. Dare looked at him. "Fire, Amaka." Daniel did not move. I expected that sentence. "She ordered them to throw me into the rain." "And you want to terminate her because she offended the chairman, because she abused an injured man and dismissed an employee who helped him. Then establish it properly." "I saw it. You saw part of it while concussed. The employee deserves more than your anger. She deserves a clean record based on evidence." Dare pushed himself higher against the pillow. "Do not turn this into a lecture. I will turn it into whatever prevents you from repeating the same abuse with more expensive shoes." Mrs. Daniels looked down to hide her reaction. Dare's face hardened. Daniel continued. "If you call the office and say, 'I am the owner, remove Amaka,' everybody will obey. That will feel satisfying. It will not prove what happened. It will not uncover why the receptionist was accused of theft after helping you. It will not tell us whether others suffered before her." Dare's anger shifted. "Theft?" Mrs. Daniels handed him E's termination notice. He read the third allegation twice. "She took money?" "There is a voucher," Daniel said, "created at 10:14 last night." Dare looked up. She was already outside the company by 5. Exactly. The room became quiet. Dare remembered the printed report in the crashed SUV. Missing charity funds. Suspicious suppliers. Figures that refused to explain themselves. He looked at Daniel. "You think the accusation is connected. I think we know too little. That is why we investigate." Dare pressed his fingers against his forehead. "Preserve everything. Already done. Speak to Ease, we will. But not as your grateful beneficiary. As a worker whose rights may have been violated." Dare looked toward the window. Below, Lagos continued without caring that a billionaire had been mistaken for a homeless man. For the first time since the lobby, he thought beyond his own humiliation. How many other people had entered that building, with no surname powerful enough to trigger an emergency code? How many had been pushed outside and never heard from again? At Kestrel Meridian, Amaka arrived before 7 the next morning. She ordered the IT manager to delete the lobby camera file. The footage contains a medical incident, she said. Data protection. Remove it. The manager hesitated. Ma, our retention policy is 30 days. I am the chief operations officer. Yes. Ma, then operate. He deleted the local copy at 7:26. Amaka watched the confirmation appear. File removed. She allowed herself to breathe. What she did not know was that Kestrel Meridian's security cameras were maintained by an external vendor. Every recording was mirrored to a secure server outside the building. At 5:01 the previous evening, Daniel's legal hold had frozen the backup. The footage was safe. So was the sound. At 9:43, Halima was called into Amaka's office. Amaka sat behind her desk with a statement already printed. Sign Halima read it. The statement claimed Ease had asked her how to withdraw money from the emergency fund without secondary approval. This did not happen, Ma. Amaka folded her hands. Did I say it happened exactly like that? Halima looked up. I cannot sign a false statement. Amaka smiled. You owe the staff cooperative 893,000 naira. Halima's lips parted. You applied for promotion last month. Your younger sister's university fees are in your salary deductions. I know these things because I approve payroll exceptions. Halima said nothing. I am offering you senior payroll officer. 32% increase. Sign 1 page. Halima stared at the pen. Fear spoke first. It told her that ease was already gone. It told her that truth would not pay alone. It told her that powerful people always survived, and witnesses always suffered. Then she remembered Easy's flask hitting the floor. She remembered the way everybody had watched. She remembered doing nothing. Ma, Halima said, I need time to read it. You need courage to obey. I cannot sign today. Amaka's smile vanished. Leave the office, Halima rose. And Halima, she turned. Be careful. Some people fall because they stand too close to somebody else's problem. By noon, Halima's access to the payroll system had been reduced. At 1:32, she went into the ladies' room, locked herself inside a stall, and sent the photographs of the altered voucher to Ease. The message included only 6 words. They created this after you left. Ease was sitting in a public library applying for jobs on her cracked phone. She opened the images. The timestamp was clear. 10:14 p.m. She covered her mouth. For the first time since the accusation, she held proof that the lie had a clock. She typed a response. Please keep yourself safe. Send nothing from company email. Halima replied. I am afraid. Ease stared at the message before answering. So am I, but fear does not make the lie true. That evening, Daniel received an anonymous envelope at his office. Inside were printed screenshots of the voucher, the ledger, and 3 payroll deductions linked to former contract workers. There was no name, only a handwritten sentence. Please look at all of us, not only Ease. Daniel placed the note beside the legal hold order. Then he called Dare. This is bigger than one dismissal, he said. Dare was silent. How much bigger? We are about to find out. For the next 3 days, Kestrel Meridian continued to function as if nothing had happened. The lifts opened and closed. Trucks moved through a papa. Managers approved fuel invoices. Receptionists greeted visitors beneath the silver logo. Amaka attended meetings in bright suits and spoke about accountability with the same mouth that had ordered a false accusation into Easy's file. But underneath the ordinary movement, the company had begun to split. Some employees believed Ease had stolen the money. Some believed she had been punished for embarrassing Amaka. Most believed nothing strongly enough to risk saying it aloud. That was how unhealthy systems survived. Not because everybody was cruel, because enough people decided silence was safer than truth. On Friday morning, Daniel sent Ease a formal invitation to meet at his law office in Ikoyi. The message did not mention Dare's name. It said only that he represented an independent review panel, examining her dismissal, and requested her account of the events. Ease read it 4 times. She almost ignored it. Big companies sometimes invited dismissed workers to meetings, only to collect statements they could use against them. Her course tutor had warned the class about signing broad settlement documents without advice. So Ease replied with questions. Would the meeting be recorded? Could she bring a witness? Would she receive a copy of any statement she signed? Would the company confirm that her attendance did not mean she accepted the allegations? Daniel responded within 12 minutes. Yes to all 4. Ease arrived on September 12 at 10:03 in the morning. She wore the cleanest clothes she had, a cream blouse, a teal skirt, low black shoes. Her yellow work blouse was still hanging in her room because the sauce stain had refused to disappear completely. Daniel's office was quiet and modest compared with Kestrel Meridian. No marble, no giant logo, no receptionist measuring people with her eyes. He met Ease himself. Miss Johnson. Good morning, sir. Thank you for coming. Am I in trouble? That depends on whether telling the truth is now considered trouble. Ease did not smile. Daniel noticed. Please sit. You may record the meeting on your phone. We are recording also, and you will receive a copy. That simple sentence loosened something in her chest. The meeting lasted 1 hour and 37 minutes. Daniel asked her to begin before the injured man entered the lobby. He asked what Amaka had said that morning. He asked who was present. He asked when Ease touched the first aid box. He asked whether Dare had entered any restricted lift or office. No, sir. He sat beside reception. Did he threaten anybody? No. Did he ask you for money? No. Did you open the emergency cash fund that day? I have never opened it in my life. I do not have the key. Did you request 127,500 naira at any time? No. Daniel placed the disputed voucher in front of her. Ease stared at the signature. That is my signature, but not on this paper. How can you tell? There is a gap after the J. I signed like that in March, when I claimed transport reimbursement for a late shift. The amount was 6,800 naira. I remember because the bus broke down near Costain. Daniel made a note. You remember the figure exactly? I remember money that belongs to me, sir. He almost smiled. Fair enough. Then he asked a different question. If the allegation is withdrawn and your salary paid, what outcome do you want? Ease answered immediately. My name cleared in writing. Anything else? She hesitated. My job, if the environment changes. Changes how? Contract workers should be allowed to answer accusations before dismissal. Deductions should be explained. Managers should not search bags to shame people. Security should not push injured people outside because their clothes are dirty. Daniel looked up from his notes. That is a long list. It is not long when you are the one suffering each item. The room became quiet. Then the inner door opened. Dare walked in. His left hand was bandaged. A faint bruise remained near his temple. He wore a simple white shirt and dark trousers. Clean clothes changed the entire shape of him, yet Ease recognized him before Daniel spoke. She rose so quickly that her chair struck the wall. You Dare? Stopped. Yes. Ease looked from him to Daniel. Confusion crossed her face, then she noticed the signet ring on Dare's finger. A silver bird, wings open. The same symbol behind the reception desk. Daniel stood. Miss Johnson, this is Mr. Dare eBay, founder and controlling shareholder of Kestrel Meridian Group. Ease did not speak. Her lips parted, but no sound came. Dare saw the exact moment the truth reached her. She stepped back. No. It is true, Dare said. You were testing us. The question carried disappointment, not wonder. Dare understood immediately. No. I was not disguised. I did not arrange what happened. He explained the accident. The missing wallet. The driver taken to another hospital. The walk through the rain. The failed attempt to contact the board's secretary. Ease listened without sitting. When he finished, she lowered herself slowly into the chair. So you are truly the owner. I am. And they did not know. They did not. Ease gave a bitter laugh. If they had known, they would have carried you on their heads. Dare looked away for a second. Yes. He sat across from her. I owe you an apology. You did not fire me, sir. I built the company that allowed it. Ease looked at him more carefully. That answer was not what she expected. Dare continued. I have instructed that the allegation be suspended pending investigation. I want to restore your salary, convert your contract to permanent employment, and compensate you for the public humiliation. Ease's heart jumped. Permanent employment. The thing she had worked 11 months to receive was now being placed before her in one sentence. Health insurance, better pay, security. Her rent problem could disappear before evening. Daniel watched her without interruption. Dare added, We can resolve your personal matter immediately while the wider review continues. Ease looked down at her hands. For one dangerous moment, she wanted to say yes and leave. She had not slept properly for 4 nights. She had eaten bread for dinner twice. Her landlord had already sent a reminder. A permanent job could rescue her before pride finished what Amaka started. Then she remembered the cleaner with the broken soap dispenser. She remembered Halima's message. Please look at all of us, not only Ease. Ease raised her head. Sir, if you bring only me back, another contract worker will still be thrown away next month. Dare went still. I did not say only you. But you said, my personal matter can be resolved immediately. Yes. What about the people whose names are not known by the chairman? The question stayed in the room. Daniel leaned back. Dare did not answer quickly. Ease continued. I am grateful you want to help me, but please do not turn me into proof that the system works, because the system noticed me only after you discovered who I was helping. Dare's expression changed. Not anger. Recognition. Ease's voice softened. If that man had truly been homeless, would there be an investigation? Dare looked at the bandage around his hand. No, he said at last. Probably not. Then that is the real problem. For several seconds, nobody spoke. Outside the office, a generator started with a low vibration. Dare turned to Daniel. Expand the review. Daniel's eyes remained on Ease. To what scope? All contract terminations in the past 18 months. Payroll deductions, emergency funds, street dignity suppliers, security complaints, everything she mentioned. Ease exhaled slowly. Dare faced her again. Your personal remedy will not be used to close the wider matter. I give you my word. Ease nodded. Put it in writing, sir. Dare almost laughed. Daniel did. The investigation began that afternoon. It did not begin with police sirens or dramatic arrests. It began with boring things. Passwords, invoice dates, access logs, bank statements, archived emails, old termination letters, names of suppliers, times when documents were created and times when they were edited. Truth often looked less exciting than accusation, but it was heavier. Daniel formed a small independent team with 2 forensic accountants and an employment specialist. Mrs. Daniels authorized access through the board's audit committee. Dare removed himself from daily evidence review so that nobody could claim he had shaped the findings to punish Amaka for insulting him. That decision was difficult for him. Every time he remembered Easy's food falling to the floor, anger rose again. But Daniel repeated the same warning. You are not investigating disrespect to a billionaire. You are investigating abuse of people without power. The distinction mattered. At Kestrel Meridian, Amaka sensed movement, but could not see its full shape. The audit committee requested records from her office. External lawyers asked questions about supplier selection. The data vendor refused her request to confirm deletion of the lobby footage. Citing a legal hold, she called the IT manager. What legal hold? I do not know, Ma. It came from board counsel. Who authorized it? I cannot see the name. Amaka ended the call and sat motionless. Someone above her had moved before she did. That meant Dare had not merely survived. He was already digging. She called Halima again. This time, the door remained open while two other managers worked nearby. Amaka wanted witnesses to see calmness. Halima, I am told you accessed the emergency fund ledger after hours. I was preparing the termination file you requested, Ma. Did you copy anything? No, Ma. It was the first direct lie Halima had told her. Amaka studied her face. You are squeezing your face like somebody carrying a secret. I am tired. Then rest. Effective immediately, you are suspended from system access while we review a payroll anomaly. Halima's knees weakened. Ma, what anomaly? You will receive it in writing. The cruelty of the sentence was deliberate. Amaka was using the very procedure she had denied ease, but only as a weapon. Halima returned to her desk under the eyes of colleagues. Her computer had already been locked. She placed her small plant into a bag, collected her lunch container, and walked out. Nobody followed. At the gate, Ibrahim stopped her. Hope no problem? They suspended me. For what? For knowing what time a document was created. Ibrahim looked toward the cameras. His mouth tightened. Halima, that day in the lobby. Was that man truly the owner? She stared at him. You know? People are talking. He is. Ibrahim rested both hands on the desk. God forbid. That is what frightens you? Halima asked. That he was the owner? Ibrahim looked at her. He was bleeding. Yes. I followed the order. Yes. His voice dropped. What should I have done? Helped him first. Then Amaka would have removed me too. Halima lifted her bag. Welcome to the problem. She left him standing beneath the camera. That night, Ibrahim could not sleep. He had worked in private security for 13 years. He had guarded banks, estates, and warehouses. He knew the rules. Control entry. Follow instruction. Protect property. Avoid emotional involvement. Yet no manual had told him to ignore blood. He remembered Dare's unsteady feet. He remembered Ease saying the man could collapse. He remembered Amaka telling him to move the man outside. He had obeyed. If the clinic vehicle had arrived 10 minutes later, what then? Would obedience have carried the body? On September 15, Daniel invited Ibrahim to an interview. Ibrahim arrived in uniform, sat upright, and gave careful answers. Yes, sir. No, sir. I followed management instructions, sir. Daniel allowed the phrase to repeat until it became uncomfortable. Then he asked, if the order had caused that injured man to die outside the gate, whose conscience would carry the body? Ibrahim stopped breathing for a second. My duty was to protect the building. From what? Unauthorized entry. Did he enter a restricted floor? No. Did he carry a weapon? No. Did he threaten anyone? No. Was he visibly injured? Ibrahim looked down. Yes. Did Miss Johnson take money from any company fund while you were present? No. Did she use her own phone to call the clinic? Yes. Did Amaka Coker instruct you to write that Ms. Johnson endangered staff? Ibrahim's jaw moved. Daniel waited. The recorder light blinked red. Yes. Was that accurate? No. The word came out quietly. Then something in Ibrahim broke open. He described the full incident. He admitted that Ease had paid the clinic call-out deposit from her personal mobile wallet. He admitted Dare had remained beside reception. He admitted Amaka ordered a junior guard to search E's bag after the staff card was removed. He also admitted something Daniel had not known. After E's left, Amaka told him to change the incident log. The original entry said, "Injured unidentified male requested medical assistance." The revised entry said, "Aggressive vagrant attempted unauthorized access." "Where is the original?" Daniel asked. The paper sheet was torn out. "Any digital copy?" "The guard desk scanner uploads each page at midnight." Daniel's eyes sharpened. "Was the scanner disconnected?" "I do not know." It had not been. At midnight on September 8, the original page had uploaded automatically to the vendor archive. Another lie had a timestamp. The wider audit produced more. 23 contract employees had been dismissed in 14 months without signed response forms. 11 had unexplained deductions ranging from 9,500 to 46,000 naira. 3 suppliers linked to Street Dignity Initiative shared the same residential correspondent's address in Lekki. 1 supplier had billed the company for 211 winter blankets delivered to a Lagos shelter in April. Lagos in April did not require winter blankets. The shelter listed on the invoice had closed 11 months earlier. Another supplier claimed to have served meals to 400 homeless people on a date when photographs showed only 63 food packs. The image metadata placed the photographs at a different location. Each finding was small enough to explain alone. Together, they formed a road, and every road led toward Amaka. On September 17, Ease met Daniel again. He showed her a draft letter clearing the theft allegation pending final board approval. She read every line. "You wrote that there is no sufficient evidence," she said. "Yes, that sounds as if maybe I did it, but they cannot prove it." Daniel nodded slowly. "What wording do you prefer?" "The voucher was created after my dismissal and used without my authorization. The allegation is false." "That is stronger. It is also true." Daniel changed it. Ease was learning something important. People without power often accepted weak corrections because they were grateful to receive anything. But a vague apology could leave a stain. A future employer might still wonder. A supervisor might still whisper. Clearing a name required clear language. That same evening, Dare visited the Kestrel Meridian building after most employees had left. He entered through the executive garage with Mrs. Daniels. No announcement was made. The lobby was empty except for 2 guards. The rice stain was gone. Ease's desk had been assigned to a temporary receptionist. The giant banner remained. "No human being is in Veal." Dare stood beneath it. He remembered walking through the glass doors with blood on his hand. He remembered Amaka looking at his clothes before looking at his face. He remembered 42 people watching one woman lose her livelihood for offering water. "Remove that banner," he said. Mrs. Daniels looked at him. "The campaign launch is next week." "Leave it for now," Dare corrected himself. "Let it remain until the event." "Why?" "Because lies should sometimes be allowed to stand where everybody can see them before the truth arrives." At 8:41, Amaka received an encrypted message from one of the audit committee secretaries. "Board review to be presented at an anniversary event." She read it twice. The annual event was 9 days away. She had planned the program herself. She was scheduled to deliver the keynote address on dignity and corporate responsibility. Media would be present. Partners would be present. The full board would be present. If Dare intended to expose her there, he was not merely investigating. He was preparing a public execution. Amaka stood and walked to the window. Lagos lights stretched across the darkness. She had built 20 years of career with discipline, charm, and fear. She had survived male executives who treated her like decoration. She had fought for every promotion. She had learned that softness invited disrespect. Now one contract receptionist and one unfortunate afternoon threatened everything. She told herself again that she was not a thief. Then she opened her laptop and deleted an entire supplier folder. The deletion took 43 seconds. She did not know that the folder had already been copied. Amaka did not wait for the investigation to finish. She attacked first. On September 19, a law firm acting for Kestrel Meridian sent Ease a letter accusing her of circulating confidential financial information and damaging the company's reputation. The letter demanded that she return all internal documents within 24 hours. It warned that legal action might follow if she contacted employees, suppliers, or journalists. Ease read it at the small table in her room. Her stomach tightened. The language was formal, cold, expensive. It used phrases like injurious falsehood and unlawful possession. It mentioned financial liability larger than anything Ease had earned in her entire life. For 10 minutes, fear pushed every other thought aside. Then she called Daniel. "Sir, they are threatening me. Send me the letter. Can they arrest me?" "Not for denying a false allegation and preserving evidence relevant to your dismissal. They said I damaged the company. A company's reputation is not protected by forcing workers to hide misconduct." Ease sat down. "What should I do?" "Do not post online. Do not destroy anything. Do not contact witnesses to shape their statements. Keep the original files exactly as received. We will respond in writing." His answer calmed her because it gave fear a boundary. Not every threat was empty. Not every threat was powerful. The safest response was neither panic nor reckless courage. It was disciplined evidence. Daniel replied the same day. He informed the law firm that Ease was cooperating with a board-authorized investigation, that all material was subject to legal preservation, and that any retaliatory action would be documented. The threat did not disappear, but it stopped moving forward. Halima's situation was worse. Her suspension meant no access to work and no guarantee of salary. The cooperative loan deduction remained. She received calls from colleagues who pretended to be concerned but mainly wanted gossip. "Did you steal with Ease?" one asked. "Are they arresting people?" another whispered. Halima stopped answering unknown numbers. On September 20, she met Ease at a small restaurant near Yaba. The place was loud, crowded, and safe from office eyes. Metal spoons struck plates. A television showed a football replay above the counter. Halima looked thinner. "I almost signed that statement," she admitted. Ease did not react with shock. "Why did you not?" "Because I saw your name on a lie. Tomorrow it could be mine. It is already yours now." Halima gave a tired smile. "Yes." Ease reached across the table. "Thank you. Do not thank me too much. I kept quiet before. I saw strange deductions. I saw people crying in payroll. I told myself it was not my department to ask questions. It was your department. I know." Ease did not soften the truth. That was part of respect, too. Comfort without honesty could become another kind of silence. Halima stirred her rice. "What if Amaka wins? Then at least we will know what defeated us." "What kind of answer is that?" "The only one I have." They both laughed, quietly at first, then more fully. It was the first time Ease had laughed since the lobby. On September 22, the external camera vendor delivered the preserved recording to Daniel's office. The video was clear. It showed Dare entering at 4:31. It showed his uneven walk. It showed Amaka ordering security to remove him. It showed Ease giving him water. It showed the phone falling. It showed the staff card tearing. It showed rice spreading across the marble. The audio was even clearer. Daniel watched, without expression until the final 2 minutes. After Ease left, Amaka moved behind the reception desk and spoke to her assistant, while the bank delegation waited near the lift. Her voice was lower, but the directional microphone above the desk captured it. "Put the missing money under the receptionist's name," she said. "A contract girl cannot fight this company." Her assistant asked, "Which amount, Ma?" "The emergency voucher. Use the old signature. Let payroll process it tonight." Daniel stopped the video. The forensic accountant beside him removed his glasses. "That is direct." "Yes. It still needs authentication. We will authenticate it." Daniel replayed the sentence. Not because he doubted what he heard, because he understood what it meant. Until that moment, Amaka might have argued poor process, confusion, or panic after the chairman's injury. Now intent had a voice. The investigators verified the recording hash with the vendor. They matched the timestamp to the building access system. They confirmed that no editing had occurred. They compared Amaka's voice against 3 recorded management meetings. The match was conclusive. Still, Daniel refused to rush. He sent Amaka a written notice listing the allegations and giving her 48 hours to respond before the audit committee presented preliminary findings. When Amaka received the notice, she read the audio transcript first. Her face drained of color. She called Daniel. "This is a private internal matter. It is an authorized investigation. You are working for Dare because he wants revenge. I am working for the audit committee. That recording is illegal. It was captured by the company's disclosed security system in a public lobby. You have no right to humiliate me at an anniversary celebration. You have the right to respond to the evidence. Send your response." Amaka's voice rose. "Do you know what I have done for that company? I built the operations structure. I negotiated the northern routes. I carried Kestrel when Dare disappeared for treatment. Then include those facts in your response if they explain the vouchers. They do not cancel my contribution. No contribution cancels falsification." Amaka ended the call. She did not send a full response. Instead, she claimed the audio had been manipulated and accused Halima of unauthorized access. She insisted that the suppliers were selected under emergency procurement rules. She said Ease's dismissal had been necessary to protect clients. Every claim created a new question. Every new question found another document. By September 25, the preliminary report was complete. The final figure identified for review was not the full 68,743,200 naira. Some spending was genuine. The amount unsupported, inflated, or transferred through related suppliers was 29,864,900 naira. The report also documented 11 payroll deductions without adequate authorization and 23 contract terminations without evidence of fair hearing. Ease's name appeared on page 47. Amaka's appeared 112 times. The anniversary celebration was held on Friday, September 26. Ocean Crest Convention Center stood near the water, its glass frontage shining beneath the evening lights. Large banners lined the entrance. Camera crews adjusted tripods. Ushers in white and emerald uniforms welcomed guests. Inside the grand hall, round tables surrounded a raised stage. Silver birds decorated the screens. A long video wall displayed images of Kestrel Meridian trucks, warehouses, and community projects. More than 380 guests attended. Bank executives sat near the front. Employees filled the middle rows. Charity representatives occupied 2 tables beside the stage. Journalists moved between them, collecting quotes before the program began. Amaka arrived in a cobalt blue suit with a silver brooch shaped like wings. She looked flawless. Only the people closest to her noticed that she checked her phone every few minutes. Dare's seat at the head table remained empty. The official explanation was that he was still recovering and might join by video. Amaka took comfort from that. A man could expose her through a report. It was harder to control a room when he was physically present. At 6:47, Eve arrived with Daniel. She wore a marigold yellow blouse and a deep teal skirt. The colors made her visible from across the hall. For 1 second, she wondered whether that was a mistake. Then she remembered how often contract staff had been advised not to be visible. She lifted her chin. Halima entered 3 minutes later in a plum dress. Ibrahim came in uniform as part of the security team, though he had been reassigned from the main entrance pending review. When Amaka saw S, her smile froze. She walked quickly toward one of the guards. "That woman is not employed here. Remove her." The guard looked uncertain. "She has an invitation, Ma." "From whom?" "Board Legal Counsel." Amaka's eyes moved to Daniel. He stood near the aisle, speaking with 2 audit committee members. Amaka approached him. "You brought her here to provoke me. She is an affected employee and a witness. This is an anniversary, not a tribunal." Daniel looked toward the stage. The program was amended. Before Amaka could answer, the lights dimmed. Music rose. The host welcomed guests and introduced a short film about Kestrel Meridian's 25-year journey. On the screen, old photographs showed Dare launching the company with 2 delivery vans and a borrowed office. Employees applauded. The film moved through expansion, new warehouses, regional routes, and community work. Then came Street Dignity Initiative. Amaka's face filled the video wall. She was shown serving food, handing blankets to people, and speaking to reporters. "No human being should be treated as invisible," her recorded voice declared. Eve sat very still. The woman beside her, a charity director, whispered, "Powerful message." Eve looked at the stage. "Yes," she said, "very powerful." At 7:32, Amaka was invited to deliver the keynote address. She walked onto the stage beneath warm lights. Applause followed her. For the first 3 minutes, she spoke perfectly. She thanked partners. She praised staff. She described Kestrel Meridian as a family built on compassion and excellence. Then she said, "Dignity is not something we reserve for the rich. It belongs to every person who enters our path." Eve felt Halima's hand close around hers. Amaka continued, "Our initiative has reached people society forgot. We did not ask for their names before helping them. We did not ask what they could give us. We simply saw human beings." A few guests nodded. A reporter typed the sentence into a laptop. Amaka smiled. Then the large screen behind her went black. The host stepped onto the stage. "Ladies and gentlemen, before the award presentation, we have a special address from the founder and chairman of Kestrel Meridian Group." Amaka turned toward the screen, expecting a video call. The hall doors opened instead. Dare eBay entered. He wore a midnight navy suit, a white shirt, and a wine-red pocket square. His left hand carried a faint healing line across the palm. He walked slowly, not because he lacked strength, but because the room had already stopped for him. People stood. Applause broke out from the front tables. Amaka did not move. The wireless microphone slipped from her hand. It struck the stage with a hard sound, the same kind of sound Easy's food flask had made 18 days earlier. Dare climbed the steps. He greeted the host, then bent to collect the fallen microphone himself. When he faced Amaka, the hall became silent. She looked at his face, then at the wine-red cloth in his breast pocket. It matched the torn scarf he had used around his injured hand in the lobby. Recognition finished what fear had started. "Sir," she whispered. Dare turned to the audience. "Good evening." His voice was calm. I had prepared a speech about 25 years of Kestrel Meridian. I planned to speak about growth, resilience, and the future. But on September 8, at 4:31 in the afternoon, I entered our headquarters after a road accident. A murmur moved through the hall. My phone and wallet were missing. My clothes were torn. I was bleeding. I gave my name. Nobody believed me. Dare looked toward the employee tables. That failure did not offend me. People can fail to recognize a face. Photographs become old. Bodies change. Then he turned toward Amaka. But something else happened. The screen behind them showed a still image from the lobby camera. Dare in muddy clothes. Ease kneeling beside him. Amaka standing over both of them. The hall inhaled together. Dare continued. A receptionist gave me water and called for medical help. For that, her staff card was torn from her neck. Her belongings were thrown to the floor. Her salary was frozen. By night, she had also been accused of theft. The screen changed. E's termination notice appeared. Her name was visible. People began turning toward the back rows. Ease felt hundreds of eyes find her. Her first instinct was to shrink. She resisted it. Amaka stepped toward Dare. "Sir, there has been a misunderstanding. Security information." Dare raised one hand. "I will not condemn anybody without hearing them. That is one of the lessons this company failed to practice." He faced the audience again. "Amaka Coker has received the allegations and has submitted a response. Tonight, the audit committee will present authenticated preliminary findings. She will be allowed to answer." Daniel walked onto the stage, carrying a slim black file. No dramatic music played. No police officers rushed through the door. Only evidence arrived. Daniel introduced himself and explained the scope of the review. He stated that the findings remained subject to final processes and external legal assessment. Then he began with the lobby incident. The video played. Dare entered. Ibrahim stopped him. Amaka ordered him outside. Ease brought water. Amaka knocked the phone down. Guests watched the staff card break. They watched the food spill. They heard the insult about poverty spreading through the air conditioning. At one table, somebody whispered, "Jesus!" At another, an employee covered her mouth. Amaka stood beside the screen, her face rigid. When the video reached the moment Ease left, Daniel paused it. "Ms. Coker, do you dispute that this occurred?" Amaka took the microphone. "The video lacks context. We had high-level clients arriving. Security had identified an unknown man without identification. Ms. Johnson ignored a direct safety instruction." Daniel nodded. "Did the unknown man enter a restricted area?" "No." "But he attempted. Did he carry a weapon?" "No." "Did he threaten any person?" "He was disruptive." Daniel played the earlier section again. Dare's voice was weak but controlled. He requested the board's secretary and medical help. Daniel stopped it. "Please identify the disruption." Amaka's fingers tightened around the microphone. The risk was his presence. The words came out before she could reshape them. A murmur rose. Dare stepped forward. "Your greatest mistake was not failing to recognize your chairman." He looked across the hall. "Your greatest mistake was believing that a man without clean shoes had no right to water." Applause began somewhere near the back. It spread quickly. Dare lifted his hand and the room quietened again. "Please, this is not yet a celebration." Daniel moved to the disputed voucher. The screen displayed the creation timestamp, 10:14 p.m. It displayed Ease's building exit record, 4:44 p.m. It displayed the approval login, Amaka Coker, 10:18 p.m. Daniel explained how Easy's electronic signature had been copied from a March transport claim of 6,800 naira. Amaka interrupted. "Anybody with payroll access could have created that." "Correct," Daniel said. "That is why the audit reviewed access logs. The screen changed. The voucher had been created from an executive office network address assigned to Amaka's floor. The user session had been authenticated with her token. Amaka's breathing became visible. My credentials may have been compromised. Also possible, Daniel said. So, we reviewed the lobby audio recorded before the voucher was created. The hall became completely still. Daniel played the clip. Amaka's voice filled the speakers. Put the missing money under the receptionist's name. A contract girl cannot fight this company. Her assistant asked which amount. The emergency voucher, use the old signature. Let payroll process it tonight. The recording ended. For 2 full seconds, nobody made a sound. Then the room erupted. Employees spoke over one another. Journalists stood. Camera operators moved toward the stage. One bank executive removed his glasses and rubbed his face. Amaka raised the microphone. That audio is manipulated. Daniel waited for the noise to reduce. The recording was supplied directly by the company's contracted security vendor. Its digital signature matches the original file. The timestamp aligns with access records. 3 independent samples of Ms. Coker's recorded voice were compared. He displayed the authentication summary. Amaka looked toward the exit. 2 security officers stood there, not blocking her, only observing. Daniel continued. The review also identified 29,864,900 naira in unsupported or inflated payments associated with 3 related suppliers. Supplier names appeared. Corporate registration records followed. One director shared Amaka's family address. Another had received transfers linked to a property payment. A third invoiced a closed shelter. Amaka shook her head. Emergency procurement is not clean on paper. We were helping people while others were discussing policy. Daniel did not argue emotionally. He showed the invoices. 211 winter blankets, a closed shelter. 400 meals claimed. 63 packs visible. A duplicated photograph used in 2 reports. Do you deny approving these suppliers? I approved hundreds of vendors. Do you deny your relation to the registered directors? I cannot be punished because people I know own businesses. No. The issue is undisclosed conflict, unsupported delivery, and fund transfers. Amaka turned to Dare. I carried this company while you were away. Everybody here knows it. I built the routes. I saved contracts. I made this initiative famous. Dare's face remained heavy. You did contribute. Amaka seemed surprised. He continued. That is why this is painful. Good work does not purchase permission to harm people. You would destroy 20 years because of one receptionist? No, Dare said. Your choices did that. And she is not one receptionist. Her position does not reduce the size of the wrong. Amaka looked toward the employee tables. People she had controlled for years now looked back without lowering their eyes. She found Halima. You, she said. You stole payroll data. Halima stood. Her legs trembled, but her voice carried. I preserved evidence after you ordered me to create a false termination file. I offered you promotion because you were hard-working. You offered me promotion to sign a lie. The hall reacted again. Daniel raised the original statement Amaka had prepared for Halima. It had been recovered from the office print server. Then Ibrahim was called forward. He did not pretend to be innocent. I followed the instruction to remove the injured man, he said. I also changed the incident report after Ms. Coker ordered it. That was wrong. Amaka laughed bitterly. So now everybody is a saint because the chairman has returned? Ibrahim shook his head. No, Ma. That is the problem. I became brave only after I learned he was powerful. The honesty struck harder than self-defense would have done. Ibrahim continued. If he had been an ordinary homeless man, I might never have admitted it. I am ashamed of that. Dare looked down. So did many others, because the truth was no longer only about a marker. It had entered the whole room. Daniel concluded the preliminary presentation. The Audit Committee recommends immediate suspension of Miss Coker's operational and financial authority, pending final disciplinary review and external legal assessment. It also recommends restoration of all payments withheld from Ms. Johnson and Ms. George, formal withdrawal of the theft allegation, and review of 23 previous contract terminations. The chair of the Audit Committee rose from the front table. She confirmed that the board had voted unanimously. Amarka's access card was disabled at 8:46 p.m. No one tore it from her neck. No one threw her handbag on the floor. A board officer asked her to surrender it privately and informed her of her right to respond during the final process. That difference was deliberate. Justice was not supposed to copy humiliation. Amarka removed the card herself. Her fingers shook. For years, that small piece of plastic had opened executive doors, private lifts and rooms where other people waited for permission. Now it opened nothing. She placed it in the officer's hand. Before leaving the stage, she looked at Ease. For a second, anger fought with something else. Maybe shame. Maybe disbelief. Maybe the first painful understanding that the woman she had called powerless had not needed wealth to defeat a lie. Ease did not smile. She did not clap. She simply held Amarka's gaze until Amarka looked away. Then Dare asked Ease to come forward. She walked toward the stage through an aisle of standing employees. The applause was loud, but her face remained serious. Dare waited until she reached him. "Miss Johnson," he said, "on behalf of Kestrel Meridian Group, I apologize for the public humiliation, the false allegation, and the failure to provide a fair process." He handed her a letter. "The accusation of theft is withdrawn as false. Your record will be corrected with the outsourcing company and any employment reference. Your withheld salary will be paid in full." Ease opened the letter. The wording was direct. The voucher had been created after her dismissal and used without her authorization. The allegation was false. Her eyes filled. This time, she allowed the tears to fall. Dare held out a new staff card. Not the old contract badge, a permanent employee card. Ease looked at it but did not take it immediately. She turned toward the rows of contract workers. "This badge will mean nothing," she said, "if the people behind me can still be silenced." The hall went quiet once more. Dare lowered his hand. "You are right." Ease faced the board. "I want to return, but not as a reward for helping a rich man. I want a written process for every contract worker. I want deductions explained. I want complaints reviewed outside the manager being complained about. I want security trained to help injured people before judging their clothes." A journalist lifted a camera, Ease continued. "And the workers whose names were damaged before mine should receive proper review. Not only me." Dare looked at the audit chair. She nodded. "The board accepts those conditions in principle, subject to legal drafting and employee consultation." Ease looked at Daniel. He gave the smallest nod. Only then did she accept the card. The applause that followed was not the same as before. It was not applause for a billionaire revealing himself. It was applause for a woman refusing to climb out of injustice alone. The public reveal did not end the matter. It only removed the darkness around it. The next morning, news reports carried photographs of Dare, Ease, and Amarka on the same stage. Headlines focused on the dramatic identity reveal. Social media reduced 18 days of investigation into a few exciting sentences. A homeless man was really a billionaire. A receptionist was fired for helping him. The wicked executive was exposed. Those words were not false. They were simply incomplete. Dare knew that incomplete truth could become another kind of entertainment. People would cheer for ease, and then return to offices where cleaners were still shouted at. Security guards were still underpaid, and contract workers were still dismissed through one-line messages. So he refused every television interview that wanted only the surprise. "The point is not that I was rich," he told Mrs. Daniels. "The point is that they believed I was poor." On Monday, September 29, Kestrel Meridian released a formal statement. It confirmed Easy's exoneration. It confirmed Amaka's suspension. It confirmed an independent review of procurement, payroll deductions, and contract terminations. It also acknowledged that senior leadership, including Dare himself, had failed to detect a culture in which temporary workers had less access to fairness. Some board members wanted that last sentence removed. "It exposes us," one argued. Dare answered, "We are already exposed. The question is whether we are honest." Ease returned to the building on October 2nd. The sky was bright, no rain, no dramatic crowd waited outside. She arrived at 7:12 out of habit, then remembered that her new role did not begin until 8. Ibrahim stood at the security desk. For a moment, both of them remembered the same afternoon. He came around the desk. "Ease. Good morning, Olga Ibrahim." "I am sorry." She looked at him. He did not hide behind Amaka's instruction this time. "I saw you helping that man. I knew you were not creating danger. I still held your bag and allowed them to push you out. Yes, I was afraid for my job. I know. That does not make it correct." "No." Ibrahim nodded slowly. "I am sorry." Ease allowed the silence to remain before answering. "I accept your apology, but please, the next person may not have a chairman's name to save her." "I understand." "Show it." He placed his hand against his chest. "I will." Ease entered the lobby. The giant banner had been removed. In its place stood a plain notice informing employees that complaints concerning safety, deductions, harassment, or dismissal could be submitted through an independent channel. The notice listed a phone number and email address. It was not beautiful. No smiling executive appeared on it. Ease trusted it more. Her old reception desk was occupied by another contract employee. The young woman stood quickly when she saw Ease. "Good morning, Ma." "Good morning. Please sit." "You do not need to stand, because I passed." The woman smiled nervously. Ease took the staff lift to the 5th floor. Her new office was not large. It contained one desk, 2 visitor chairs, and a cabinet that refused to close properly. On the door was a temporary paper sign, "Aimpiquan, Welfare and Compliance Trainee." The title was less impressive than some people expected. Ease preferred it that way. She had not become a director overnight. She did not suddenly know employment law, because one powerful man admired her courage. Kestrel Meridian paid for her to complete her professional certificate, but she still had to study. She received supervision. She attended training. Her decisions were reviewed. A reward without competence would have made her another symbol placed above a broken system. Ease wanted to become useful. Her first assignment was to assist with the review of 23 dismissed contract workers. The files arrived in 3 boxes. Each box contained lives reduced to paper. Attendance records, queries, deductions, manager comments, separation notices. One cleaner had been dismissed after refusing to pay for a broken vacuum that was older than her employment. A driver had lost his final salary because a customer complained about traffic delay. A warehouse assistant had been accused of taking diesel. Yet, the measurement record carried no witness signature. A receptionist had been removed after reporting repeated insults from a client. Not every dismissal was wrongful. Some employees had ignored safety rules. Some had abandoned duty. One had admitted altering a delivery record. Fairness did not mean every worker was innocent. It meant each case had to be examined on evidence rather than status. Ease learned this quickly. When she argued too strongly for one former worker, Daniel corrected her. Compassion is not the same as conclusion. The manager treated him badly. That may be true. Did he also leave a warehouse gate unlocked? Yes, then examine both. Dignity does not erase responsibility. Ease nodded. It was not always the lesson she wanted. It was the lesson she needed. Halima returned to work 1 week later. Her suspension letter was withdrawn. Her missed salary was paid. She was not promoted immediately because the proposed promotion had become part of the bribery evidence. Instead, she joined a payroll controls review and later applied through an open process. For several weeks, colleagues treated her differently. Some praised her courage in public and avoided her in private. Nobody wanted to discuss sensitive matters near the woman who had preserved screenshots. Halima found that funny. When you keep quiet, they call you loyal, she told Ease. When you tell the truth, they call you dangerous. Ease smiled. Be dangerous with accurate timestamps. They laughed. But Halima also faced her own accountability. The review showed that she had noticed unusual deductions months before Easy's case and had not reported them. No disciplinary punishment followed because she had lacked a protected channel and later cooperated. Still, Daniel asked her to write a reflective statement for the control review. Halima did not enjoy it. I helped expose the problem. Why are they still asking what I failed to do? Because becoming useful does not erase where you were silent, he said. Halima stared at her. You have started sounding like Daniel. God forbid. They both laughed again. Ibrahim remained employed, but the board issued him a formal warning for changing the incident record and failing to prioritize medical assistance. He attended emergency first aid training and a 3-day program on de-escalation, disability awareness, and lawful security procedure. Some guards mocked the training. Oga Ibrahim, now you will be serving tea to everybody at the gate. He answered, if the person is bleeding, yes. The first time the new policy was tested, it did not involve a billionaire. A dispatch rider collapsed near the entrance after working through the afternoon heat. His clothes were dusty. His delivery was for another building. The junior guard wanted to move him away from the company driveway. Ibrahim stopped him. Bring water, call the clinic, clear the area. But he is not our visitor. He is a human being before he is anybody's visitor. The rider recovered after treatment for dehydration. No newspaper reported it. No chairman watched. That was how Ibrahim knew the change had become real. Amarka's final disciplinary hearing took place on October 21. She attended with 2 lawyers. The board allowed her to submit documents, question the accuracy of the findings, and respond to each allegation. The process lasted almost 6 hours. Amarka argued that her results had benefited the company. She presented successful contracts, revenue growth, and letters from partners praising her leadership. She insisted that procurement shortcuts weren't necessary because community work moved faster than board approvals. Some of those points were valid. She had contributed to Kestrel Meridian's growth. She had worked long hours. She had solved difficult operational problems. She had faced discrimination earlier in her career and forced people to take her seriously. None of that changed the altered voucher. None of it changed the false statement prepared for Halima. None of it changed the related suppliers or the instruction to rewrite the security log. The board dismissed her for gross misconduct, financial control violations, retaliation, and falsification of employee records. It did not announce a prison sentence because the board had no power to do that. The evidence was transferred to the appropriate authorities and to civil counsel. Supplier contracts were frozen. Recovery proceedings began. Months later, part of the disputed funds was recovered through settlements and asset restrictions. Other portions remained contested. Real accountability moved slowly. It required documents, hearings, legal arguments, and patience. There were no handcuffs in the ballroom. There was no miraculous judge waiting behind the stage. There was simply a door that stopped opening for Amaka because the evidence had finally become heavier than her position. Before her dismissal became final, she was required to withdraw the accusation against Ease in writing and approve the correction of affected employment records as part of the internal remediation process. The letter she signed was 4 paragraphs long. Ease read it once, then again. Amaka did not call her kind. She did not confess to every motive. She did not suddenly become humble because stories like neat transformations. She admitted that the allegation of theft was false and unsupported, that the document had been created without Easy's authority, and that the company record should show no misconduct. For Ease, that was enough. Forgiveness was personal. Correction was necessary. They were not the same thing. The review of the 23 contract terminations took 5 months. 9 dismissals were confirmed as justified after evidence and employee responses were examined. 6 were converted into lesser disciplinary findings. 8 were found materially unfair. Those 8 former workers received corrected references, unpaid entitlements, and opportunities to apply for suitable roles. 5 returned. 3 chose not to. One former cleaner said she could never enter the building again without remembering how she had been searched in front of people. The company offered money and counseling support. She accepted the money. She rejected the job. Restoration did not always mean returning to the place where harm happened. Sometimes it meant leaving with your name intact. The payroll review returned. Withheld deductions to 11 workers. The amounts were not enormous by corporate standards. 9,500 naira, 18,000, 46,000. To the workers, they mattered. One man used his refund to pay examination fees. One woman bought medicine. Another simply said, "At least they admitted it was my money." Kestrel Meridian adopted a new policy called the Dignity at Work Protocol. It required written allegations before dismissal. It required a genuine opportunity to respond. It prohibited public searches except where immediate safety demanded action. It required preservation of relevant camera footage once a complaint was made. It created an independent reporting line for contract staff. It required clear authorization for deductions. Security procedure also changed. A person with a medical emergency had to receive reasonable assistance before status verification, provided the scene could be made safe. Guards were trained to distinguish danger from discomfort. That phrase came from Daniel. "Too many people call someone dangerous," he said, "when what they mean is that the person's poverty makes them uncomfortable." The street dignity initiatives survived, but not in its old form. Dare wanted to cancel it completely. Ease disagreed. "The program did help some people," she said. "Do not destroy the good because somebody used it badly." So the initiative was transferred to an independent oversight committee with published spending summaries and verified delivery records. No executive's face appeared on the new materials. Partner organizations confirmed receipt publicly. Photographs were no longer accepted as proof by themselves. The first project funded under the new structure was a mobile hygiene and document recovery service for people living without stable housing. Ease suggested the document component. "Without identification," she explained, People cannot open accounts, apply for formal work, or access many services. We treated Mr. Ibe differently because he could prove his name later. Many people cannot. Dare listened. The comment stayed with him. His own lost wallet had inconvenienced him for several hours. For someone without lawyers, secure records, or a board secretary, missing identification could trap a life for years. 6 months after the anniversary, Ease completed her human resources and workplace compliance certificate. The graduation ceremony was held in a modest hall in Yaba. Halima arrived carrying flowers wrapped in newspaper. Ibrahim came in plain clothes and sat near the back. Daniel attended late and stood by the door because every chair was taken. Dare did not arrive with a convoy. He came in one car with Mrs. Daniels and sat quietly. When Easy's name was called, she walked across the stage in a dark gown and received her certificate. For a moment, she remembered the broken staff card on the marble floor. The memory no longer controlled her. After the ceremony, Dare congratulated her. "You earned this," he said. He smiled. "Yes, sir. I know." Dare laughed. That answer pleased him more than gratitude would have done. 2 weeks later, Ease was confirmed as Employee Welfare and Compliance Coordinator after a competitive internal assessment. Her salary increased. Her responsibilities increased more. She still lived in Surulere for several months because she refused to rush into a new apartment simply to appear transformed. She replaced her cracked phone. She paid her course debt. She built an emergency fund equal to 3 months of expenses. Halima teased her. "You now work near the chairman, and you are still pricing tomatoes like somebody negotiating an oil contract." Ease answered, "Chairman will not come and pay my rent when tomatoes finish my salary." Success did not remove sense. Dare also changed, though not in the dramatic way business profiles later described. He did not become a perfect chairman. He still became impatient. He still preferred quick decisions. He still had to be reminded that a founder's instinct was not a substitute for process. But he returned to regular oversight. He met contract staff without managers selecting who could speak. He asked for complaint data beside profit data. He required reports to show unresolved cases, not only success stories. Most importantly, he stopped believing that good intentions at the top automatically produced dignity at the bottom. An organization could publish compassionate values while teaching fear through daily behavior. Culture was not the slogan on the wall. Culture was what happened when no powerful person was watching. One rainy afternoon in March, an elderly street vendor hurried beneath the canopy of Kestrel Meridian to protect himself and a basket of bread. The lobby was busy. A client delegation was expected. Cars lined the driveway. A new guard stepped forward. "Baba, you cannot stay here. Please move." The old man looked at the rain. "My son, only 5 minutes." "No, this is a corporate building." Ease was crossing the lobby with a folder when she heard him. She stopped. The guard recognized her and straightened. "Ma, I am clearing the entrance." Ease looked at the old man. His clothes were worn but clean. His sandals were wet. He held the bread basket with both hands. "Is he threatening anyone?" she asked. "No, Ma." "Is he blocking the doors?" "No, then give him space until the rain reduces." The guard hesitated. "But the clients," Ease pointed to the procedure notice beside the security desk. "Give him water first. Ask questions after he is safe." Ibrahim heard the words from the other side of the lobby. He smiled. The guard brought a chair. The old man sat beneath the canopy. Somebody bought 2 loaves from him. 5 minutes became 12 before the rain softened. No one discovered that he was a billionaire. He was not the chairman's father. He carried no secret document. No convoy arrived. No television camera recorded the moment. He was simply a man trying to keep bread dry. And that was enough. Dare watched from the fifth-floor corridor. He could see Ease speaking to the guard, but he could not hear the words through the glass. He saw the chair brought out. He saw the old man receive water. He saw employees pass without mocking him. Dare did not go downstairs. He did not need to turn the moment into a chairman's lesson. The system had acted without him. That was the victory. Later that evening, Ease remained in her office after most people had left. She was reviewing a complaint from a driver who believed his supervisor had deducted fuel money unfairly. The case was not simple. The fuel record was incomplete, but the driver had also failed to submit 2 receipts. Ease marked the questions that needed answers and scheduled a meeting with both sides. Dare knocked on the open door. "You are still here." "I am finishing one file, sir." "You said that 40 minutes ago. I learned early arrival from poverty. I am still learning early departure from permanent employment." He smiled and sat in the visitor's chair. For a while, neither spoke. Then Dare said, "Do you ever wish you had taken my first offer and avoided all the trouble?" Ease considered the question. "My rent wished I had." Dare laughed. "But you?" Ease looked at the boxes of reviewed files now stored in the cabinet. "If I had accepted only my job, I would have slept better that month. But those other names would still be inside closed folders." Dare nodded. "I have thought often about what you asked me, whether there would have been an investigation if I had truly been homeless, and the honest answer still shames me." Ease closed the file. "Shame is useful only when it changes behavior, sir. You have become very bold. I was bold before. You just met me when it became expensive." Dare laughed again, but his eyes remained thoughtful. Before leaving, he stopped at the door. "Ease." "Yes, sir. Thank you for the water." She shook her head. "You do not need to keep thanking me." "I know. Then why do you?" "Because I am not thanking you only for the cup." He walked away. Ease switched off her computer at 7:07 and stood by the window. Lagos lights had begun to appear. Horns rose from the road below. Rainwater reflected red brake lights across the street. Her staff card rested against her blouse. This one had not been handed to her as charity. It represented work, training, and a responsibility she had chosen to carry. Yet she never forgot the broken card. She kept the torn plastic strap in the top drawer of her desk. Not as a trophy, as a warning. Power could change its language and still remain power. A good policy could become decoration if nobody defended it. A victim could become a manager and repeat the same cruelty if she began believing that suffering had made her automatically wise. Ease wanted the reminder close. 3 days after that conversation, Kestrel Meridian held its first open staff forum under the new protocol. The meeting took place in the old training room, not the executive hall. Permanent employees sat beside outsourced cleaners, drivers, guards, and temporary administrators. Names were written on ordinary paper cards. No chair was reserved because of salary grade. At first, nobody wanted to speak. People had spent years learning that meetings were places where management talked and workers nodded. An open microphone did not erase that training in one afternoon. Dare sat in the second row. Daniel sat near the wall. Ease stood at the front with a notebook. She did not begin with a speech. She asked one question. "What is one company rule that looks fair on paper but becomes unfair in practice?" Silence followed. Then a warehouse clerk raised his hand. He explained that workers were punished for late arrival even when a company bus broke down. Yet the transport report was never attached to their attendance file. A cleaner spoke next. She said supervisors sometimes marked cleaning chemicals as missing, then divided the replacement cost among the lowest paid workers without showing inventory records. A driver said route targets forced them to choose between unsafe speed and salary deductions. An administrator described being asked to work late without transport because permanent staff assumed contract workers had nowhere important to go. The room changed slowly. Fear did not disappear, but it stopped being the only voice. One employee stood and criticized Dare directly. "Sir, management is talking about dignity now because the person they pushed away happened to be you. We complained before. Nobody formed an audit committee." The room froze. Several heads turned toward Dare. The employee immediately looked as if he regretted standing. Dare rose. "You are correct." No defense followed. He did not list donations. He did not remind them how many jobs he had created. He did not say he could not know everything happening in a company of more than 2,000 employees. All those statements might have been true. "None," answered the accusation. "I allowed distance to become ignorance," he said. "Then I mistook ignorance for evidence that things were fine. That failure belongs to leadership, including me." The employee sat down slowly. Ease wrote the sentence in her notebook. Not because she wanted to praise Dare, because promises spoken in public should also become records. The forum produced 27 action items. Some were solved quickly, others required negotiation, budget changes, or legal review. 2 requests were rejected because they conflicted with safety standards. The company published reasons instead of hiding the decisions. That transparency caused arguments. It also built trust. Ease learned that reform was rarely dramatic after the first reveal. It involved difficult meetings, revised forms, managers complaining about extra steps, and workers testing whether the new channel was truly safe. The first anonymous complaint accused a supervisor of insulting a driver. The evidence was weak. Ease interviewed both parties and found that the conversation had been rude on both sides, but not discriminatory. She recommended mediation, not dismissal. The driver was disappointed. "I thought you supported workers," he said. "I support fair process," Ease replied. "That includes being fair when the workers' version is not fully supported." The answer cost her popularity. It protected the purpose of her role. A month later, a stronger complaint arrived against a respected department head. 3 employees described the same pattern of threats. Access records and messages confirmed it. The department head expected his seniority to protect him. It did not. He received a formal sanction, management coaching, and loss of supervisory authority until review. No gala was held. No video went viral. Yet those quiet decisions proved more than the anniversary spectacle ever could. Kestrel Meridian was learning that justice should not need a billionaire standing in the rain before it begins. From my own point of view, the most important part of Easy's story was never that the injured man turned out to own the company. That surprise exposed the wrongdoing, but it did not create the moral truth. The truth was already present when he had muddy clothes, no telephone, and no proof of his name. He deserved water then. He deserved medical help then. He deserved not to be treated like dirt then. Human dignity cannot depend on the possibility that a poor-looking stranger may secretly be rich. Respect offered only to hidden billionaires is not kindness. It is fear wearing polite clothes. Ease's courage also teaches something harder. Doing one good act can save one person, but changing a harmful system demands records, patience, discipline, and the willingness to ask who else has been hurt. She could have accepted a private reward and walked away. Instead, she refused to climb out alone. That choice gave the story its real justice. Because the finest workplace is not the one with the brightest lobby, the largest charity banner, or the richest chairman. It is the place where an ordinary person can do the right thing without being destroyed for it.